Hey there! I know I kind of shadow dropped the recent mod showcase, so in this follow-up video I'd like to talk about the Teostra Glaive mod in detail and the process of working on this amazing project. As some of you might know, I draw Monster Hunter stuff, and whenever I start sketching I try to draw armor sets and weapons I've never drawn before. I usually choose a few weapon types that could work with the pose I'm going for and look at some weapon trees either online or even in-game. Teostra's weapons have always been some of my favorites, and not just because they're blast weapons. The switch axe especially has a very clean design, so when I realized there isn't an official insect glaive, I was really curious on how it would look like. I basically made a tweet where I said that I would design it myself, and if Capcom doesn't do it, I'll do it. But it was really just meant as a joke, and I would only do it if I had spare time, and eventually I did have the spare time, so here are the first few sketches. The first design's blade was clearly inspired by the switch axe and its triangular blade shape. The second one was an idea by a Twitter user to incorporate a horn like the bow design does. And the third one is based on the greatsword and the sword and shield designs and were the community's favorite. When it comes to the actual staff part of the glaive, I just tried a few different things while keeping it close to the official designs. Quite a few people were confused about the elements, which were supposed to be the Kinsect's element and not the weapons, obviously. I didn't know this isn't a thing in Monster Hunter Rise. Now the Kinsect applies the element of your weapon, but only if it's a severing type. Blunt type Kinsects do not apply the element, and the bottom of the staff's color does not change based on the element either. Anyways, moving on with the design. Someone asked me to combine the first blade with the staff of the third one, which created a new version, 3.5, and it quickly became my personal favorite. The project was sort of done for me at this point, but there's been so much great and positive feedback that it made me think about going further with it. I didn't know how I would go about this since I've never done something like this before, but I knew that I will need some help because I can't make a 3D model and I can definitely not mod. Once again, I went to Twitter and asked if, someone knows someone, and then I quickly got an answer with a familiar name, Aki. We've been following each other for a while now, but never really interacted much, and I've always loved those two insect glaive designs she made, so I was pretty hyped about this and really looking forward to work with another Monster Hunter artist as talented as her. I got a quick response and she agreed to work together, so I went about finalizing the design. It was great to work with someone that has actually done this before because there are quite a few things that I never even considered myself. Apparently, and I didn't look at all of them of course, but apparently all the official insect glaives have a lever, trigger and a barrel, which makes a lot of sense because you can shoot, right? But somehow I never noticed that detail, and maybe some of you didn't know that either. After a bunch of talking and back and forth between us and throwing ideas at a wall and just see what sticks, this was the actual final design that she used as reference, including all the other Teostra weapons of course. She of course had to adjust a few things while making the 3D model. There's been a lot of fine-tuning and detailing of course, and Aki even designed some of the smaller elements on the go, like the previously mentioned lever, trigger and barrel. Oh, and by the way, towards the end when she was pretty much done with the 3D model, without the textures of course, we decided to make two versions because it wasn't that big of a deal to swap out the blades, and the straight blade was the community's favorite after all, so we went for both. Oh, and another thing she told me is that she made the fur on the weapon by using the actual Teostra fur textures from the game, which I think is a pretty neat detail. And that honestly makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? You take something from the game and then you change it a little bit and then you put it back in the game, and the whole point of this was to make it look official, I guess, in a way. So that's pretty smart. As she was finishing up on the 3D model and adding textures to it and then modding it into Monster Hunter World, I started to think about a name for the weapon that would fit all the other Teostra weapons' names. I gotta admit, I'm really bad at naming things, so I gave ChatGPT a chance and I was pleasantly surprised with how many decent names it came up with. And when I talked to her about the name, she even brought her own name ideas, which she also used ChatGPT for. But it was fine, we had pretty different results, so we were just able to mix and match the names and pick a few favorites. Here are the names that we chose, and I simply made a poll for them on both Twitter and Reddit, and the result was pretty clear. Teostra Spire was the final name that we decided on, and I'm still really happy with it. When the mod was done, for Monster World at least, I got to try it out, but before I was actually able to do so, I had to absolutely demolish a Dodo Gamma for its tail to craft a Glavinus into Glaive. Anyways, everything worked just fine, and she got me into contact with Eddie, who then took the 3D model and also modded it into Monster Rise. When I was done with recording the footage in both games with both versions of the weapon and editing the mod showcase video, we were ready to upload everything. Aki also made an incredible design with the 3D renders to show off both weapons and also wrote a detailed description for the mod page, which I really appreciated. The mods launched for both games, everything worked, and it felt great being done with a project this big, and I'm really proud of what we accomplished. And trust me, I wouldn't say this if I didn't mean it, but it was really amazing to work with her. Having a more experienced artist look over your design, give proper feedback, even adding own ideas and going further by making designs, and the overall attention to detail was amazing, so I can highly recommend working with her. I may have done the concept art, but that only gets you so far, and all of this would not have been possible without their help, so very special thanks to Aki and Eddie for accepting my commissions. And with that, I really hope it was interesting to get a view behind the scenes, and I hope you enjoyed the video, of course. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting!